Hey everybody, this is Justin from Spud Inc. Today we got something fun for everybody, and you'll have to mind the noise a little bit. We're here at Donnie Thompson's compound. We're doing a quick interview, and while we're doing that, we have some people in the background getting their speed squats and a few other various exercises in. So I'm going to apologize for that in advance. I promise it won't get too loud for you guys. But today we have with us to do this interview, we have a really awesome female athlete that I think everybody is going to enjoy hearing from. We have Amanda Ballew from Asheville, North Carolina. I'm going to, instead of me trying to tell you guys exactly who she is, for those of you that don't know, I'm going to let her kind of go over her athletic resume and introduce herself.
Well, hey, I'm Amanda, and I currently I compete in the Highland Games, or the Scottish Heavy Athletics. I formerly was a kickboxer. That's where I came up. The better part of my 20s, I was a professional fighter for about 5 years. And I ended up retiring in 2007. And I moved back to the mountains and got into the strength sports, put on about 30 pounds, and tried to find my way into something that I enjoyed. And I screwed around in bodybuilding for a little while and those kind of things. And ended up running into a strong man at my gym who my coach actually put me in touch with, who said, you need to come out and get in a Highland game. And I said, all right, I'll do it. So I did, and I sucked. It was terrible. It was really bad. And but I had the best time I had ever had. And I said, I got to keep doing this. I got to learn how to do this. So I kept going back, and I'm working my way up the ranks. I'm definitely not the best, but I'm certainly not the worst, and I can hold my own for now. So, and that's where I'm at.
You know, it's funny that you talk about your first Highland Games like that. That's exactly how it was for me as well. I basically kind of got conned into it by my coach at the time, and I remember I'd practiced one or two of the events and showed up and had never picked a caber in my life.
Oh, I hadn't even seen one.
And I'm watching everybody else, and they bring that caber over, and I was the only one that hadn't picked one. And I remember the rear judge was like, "You've never done this?" And I was like, "No." He's like, "This could go bad." He's like, "Do you know how to pitch one away from yourself?" And I was like, "What the heck is that?" Well, I ended up picking it, and I went out there and threw it. And very first flip, I got a 12 o'clock, and he was like, "I thought you hadn't done this." And I was like, "No, I haven't." And he was like, "How'd you do that?" And I was like, "I don't know, luck, I guess." But yeah, it was the same thing for me. I was like, after that first games, I was like, "Yeah, this is going to be my thing."
Well, my first game, I was the only woman there, so there were no other women to throw against, and the guys were great, and they were very helpful. And I wasn't a collegiate thrower, but I'm a good athlete, so I was able to muscle a lot of it just out of pure strength. I was able to, be competitive in that way, but it's taken this long to get the form down and everything else to where I'm actually competitive in all the events and not just certain events. Gotcha. Like my stone is just as good as any of the top throwers' stone, and my weights are coming along. Hammers gets better all the time, so like I said, I'm not bad.
She's being modest. Also, if you guys can't see her or not, he's kind of sitting in the ground in front of her. For those of you that do know Amanda, we have the famous Keith Richards with us, who I am more than convinced that he is actually part gargoyle as well.
So he looked at you.
He's like, I am. Let's backtrack a little bit. Let's talk about your early years in training. You were talking about your kickboxing. What actually what started that?
I got divorced. No, actually, I had been involved in martial arts anyway, and it just kind of evolved into sparring, and then actually wanting to train for a fight, which is very different than just traditional martial arts. So I ended up, it was by luck I fell into the hands that I did. I had some of the best boxing coaches or kickboxing coaches you could ask for, and we had 2 world champions come out of our system, and I was just so fortunate to get to train with these people. And one time, or it was in the beginning, early on, I didn't know much. I had a set of gloves. I didn't have mouthpiece. I didn't have a headgear. I didn't have anything, and there's always that one jerk in the gym, and he's like, well, I'll spar with you. And I was like, okay, you know, because I just thought, you know, this will be fun. And he beat the snot out of me and broke my nose and beat me up. It was bad. And I was, what on earth? And I don't know what I was thinking. The guy's like 230 pounds, you know, and he was like 6'3" probably. Like, there was no way I could get away from either his legs or his hands, and I didn't know what I was doing. So a week later, I go into the gym, and I see this coach that somebody had told me to go see. And he just stood up and looked at me, and he's like, you got tagged. And I said, I need to learn how to fight. I need a coach. And so he said, well, clearly you're tough. He said, let's I want you to see what we do first, and then we'll talk about it. And he said, we're sparring tonight. So I went downstairs, and they had a ring set up and everything, and everybody was sparring, and I watched them, and I said, all right, I want to do this. And so the next day we started, and it was just me and him, and he trained me 5 days a week for a year, and then I had my first fight. And I lost my first fight, actually. But then I ended up beating the woman who beat her the next fight. So it ended up, when it was all said and done, after 5 years, my record was 17-5. I had 22 fights. And I ended up titling in my last fight. So that was probably one of the best days of my life when that happened.
For those of you that don't know a whole lot about kickboxing, that is actually in that span. That's actually quite a few fights. You don't see some of the MMA fighters and stuff like that. Their fight card may be a little bit higher, but kickboxing takes a little bit more out of you than what MMA does. Because that's kind of a little bit of my first athletic background as well, was martial arts. I started martial arts, of course, when I was 6, and drudged up through the ranks with the American Taekwondo Association in Taekwondo. Then became a big Krav Maga guy, which I still do. Yeah. So never did any fighting stuff, but got to meet a lot of professional fighters, and I still have to admit to this day, Gina Carano is my ultimate woman crush. If you're listening out there,
and probably
Gina,
many men.
Would you please return my letters? But luckily I got to meet her, and really awesome gal to meet.
Nice.
So who are, one of the things that I always love to ask other athletes, as you were going through your kickboxing career, who were some of the top female kickboxers that you looked up to and admired, as well as some of the top males?
I did not follow a tremendous amount of the more professional women, simply because I can't remember her name right now to save my life, but she played the villain in $1 Million Baby. She was the one. She actually was a German kickboxer.
Yes.
Her picture actually hung in our gym. She had fought on a card back when she started in kickboxing before she transitioned over into pro boxing. And I always admired her, but most of my idols were the men that I trained with.
Gotcha.
And one of them was a 5-time kickboxing world champion named David Humphreys, who he actually belted in Thailand. So when he won his title, he went overseas and got it. And that was when they still fought 15-round fights. So he was insane. It was like just watching just an artist. And I remember the first time I ever met him, I had gone to the gym. We actually had a weight room down next to our ring, and he was there, and he was in the ring with somebody, and I'd just seen pictures of him. Like, I was like, there's no way that's who that is. And he was in the ring just messing around with somebody, and I was just over there, just piddling with the weights. And then he leaned over the ropes, and he looked at me, and he goes, you got your gear? And I said, yeah. And he goes, come on. And I was like, seriously? And he said, yeah. And I got in there, and he beat me up, but he'd like knock me down and be like, all right, get up. And this is what you did. And it was one of the best days of my life. And then the first time I ever knocked somebody out, I remember I called him at 2 in the morning. He's like, now you can call me at any time. And I called him at 2 in the morning. I was like, you're not going to believe this. I said, I just knocked her out. And it was one of the best feelings. And then we actually had another world champion in our system named Gary Carroll. And he was a 3-time kickboxing world champion. And he too belted in Thailand. And these men, in my eyes, were gods. And it was, if they had told me to do anything, I would have done it. And that was the system I came up in, and I trained under the same people that trained with them, and that to me, they don't get any better than them.
especially to be able to go over to Thailand and belt over there.
Yeah.
Because, again, for those of you that don't know, Thailand is where kickboxing pretty much originated. And it's a totally different training concept and method over there. One of the coolest things that I ever got to see kickboxing-wise is when I was still real big into martial arts. Myself and a couple other instructors were a member of a group called MAIA, Martial Arts Industry Association. And years ago, I forget which TV channel did it, but they had a show called Fight Girls.
Okay.
And,
I think I might remember that.
Yep, Gina Carano.
She was in it.
She was one of the trainers, but her primary kickboxing coach, Master Teddy, was. They brought in all these gals that were trying to come up through the ranks and trained with them. And they had them because they were in Vegas, and that's where our super show was. So they brought him and a few of these gals in. Well, they had his top male Thailand fighter and his top female Thailand fighter. And to watch them, it was just
insane.
Totally different. I mean, the speed, the velocity.
They start them at like 2.
Exactly.
It's
everything, every movement they made was just completely flawless. Just absolutely beautiful to watch.
And lightning fast too, and hard.
Yeah.
I think that's something people don't realize about Thai fighting versus your more dynamic karate, movements, or when you get into things like even Taekwondo or people that transition over into full contact from point karate. While point karate is very dynamic and it's pretty, it's fast. There's nothing behind it.
No, because it's just a quick game of tag.
So when they transition over into full contact, and you just they're all, well, you see it on them. When you lit them up, you know it because they're like, and then you get them because you're like, I'm gonna get her. But that's always a fun thing. But once they figure it out, and once they learn how to put some power behind their punches, God, watch out, because they've got the speed and they've got everything else. They just didn't have the power. Exactly. Then they're something to reckon with. But before that, if you can catch them early, if you can break them in, those are the good fights.
So, what has been some of the biggest differences for you training-wise? Switching from, as far as your strength training, from kickboxing to something like Highland games. What has been the biggest change?
It's an entirely different animal. For one, I'm 30 pounds heavier than I was. When we were fight training, cardio was our lives. It was essential to what we did, or you just couldn't breathe. Like, we did lift weights, but it was never specifically for size. It was just to maintain your strength for where you were. Now, I have a really talented strength coach. You met him. I brought him here. And it's just a whole different way of thinking.
Right.
It's now I'm training for speed and for strength and explosion all at the same time. And so it's very different from boxing training.
Oh, yeah.
Like, I haven't jumped rope in 8 years.
Do you miss it?
I don't miss the training. No, I don't miss the training. I miss the fighting. That was fun.
Right.
Like, I wish that they had, and I know in South Carolina they used to have bars on Friday nights. They would have a fight night, and you could just go get in a fight and come home. Like, I wish they did that in North Carolina. I'd be like, heck yeah, I'd go do that. I'd just get off work, go fight, and come home. That'd be fun, but they don't do that where I am. So, yeah, now it's just it's just a whole different animal. Like, my body is tired in a whole different way. It's bigger and stronger than it's ever been. But if I tried to fight somebody, I'd look like Bionic Woman.
Yeah.
Really slow.
Oh yeah. Now, how many years exactly now have you been in Highland games?
This is I'm going into. Is it my third? My third. I'm going into. I've had 2. So yeah, I'll be starting my third.
Gotcha.
And it's I would really like. There's certain goals I have for myself this year that I'd like to see happen, and I think they can happen. I think they can.
And for those of you that don't know a lot about Highland games, hearing her talk about how the first game that she went to, that she was the only female competitor there. One thing that a lot of you may not realize is in the Scottish heavy athletics, women actually have not been in that sport for very long. There for a little bit, it was almost unheard of to go to games and there be female competitors. that's something that has just come up in the last few years, and now now that the women have gotten kind of started making a name for themselves, they've added in a few other divisions as well. They got the little guys like me, who now we're kind of us lightweights. We're kind of having to go through what the female athletes went through, and we're having to work our way up through the trenches and show them that we're actually, in a roundabout way, kind of worthy of being on the field with them. But it's really cool now to see the impact that the female athletes have made in that sport. You're starting to see more and more of them at the games all the time, which is really, really awesome.
And here in the Southeast, I think a lot of people don't realize is you've got 3 of the top throwers in the nation. You've got Danielle Curry, current, women's world champion, also one of the strongest women on the planet, literally. Then you've got Adrienne Wilson, Olympic level athlete, 4-time women's world champion, a tremendous athlete. Jocelyn Davis, she was a Division I thrower. She threw all the events. She's, I think, ranked 5th in the world. Like I said, I'm not terrible. So, I mean, you've got some decent throwers here in the South, which is nice. Out West, they definitely have bigger women or larger women's classes. So it'd be nice to get out West and throw more. But for this area, it's cool, but you're constantly, competing against the same people. But I love getting to throw with Adrienne and Danielle, because I learn something every time I'm with them. And, and all 3 of them were, collegiate throwers. So it's nice to get to just learn the tricks and stuff like that. But
you can't beat a better throwing coach than Adrienne. It's just amazing.
She's I'm telling you, she's truly one of the best athletes I've ever known.
I agree 100%.
And she's just, it's amazing to watch her throw. It's amazing to be on the field with her. She's just, the way she trains, everything. She's a role model. It's awesome.
Very much so. So what are some of the cooler places that Highland Games has taken you as far as traveling wise? What are some of the favorite events that you went and competed at so far?
This year we got to throw with Arnold, which was really fun. I mean, nobody's going to turn down the Arnold if you get asked to go. That was a big deal, because that was the first time they ever had a women's class throw there, so that was fun. I actually got to throw in a team challenge with Adrienne and Danielle and Emily Burchett in Glasgow, Kentucky, where it was 4 women, and then they took 4 the men's pros, and they paired us together, and we had a 2-day game, and that was a blast. That was fun.
What men's pro did
they had? Let's see, it was Danielle Curry and Craig Smith, and then Adrienne and Carrie Overfelt were together. Emily and Chris Chafin, and then Duncan McCullum, who at that time, I don't know if Duncan has gone pro yet or not. But Duncan was paired with me.
Okay.
And it was 2 days, and we had a great time. It was fun. I had not ever done a 2-day game. So that was cool. And then this year, my best game yet was Green Hill, and that one, all the proceeds went to a soldier who had been I can't, what's the word? He was an amputee. Yeah, and so it was, and he also had cancer.
Oh my God!
On top of it, so all the proceeds went to him and his family. So that made it cool. That's what it's about. That was fun. Oh, and then there was Stone Mountain.
Yeah.
Which I had to actually pull out of that one halfway through it because I'm a little bit injured, but it was awesome to get to go. So.
Stone Mountain is one, especially here in the South. Stone Mountain is probably one of the, if not the biggest.
I believe that one in I think it's the second largest. Yeah. Grandfather is the largest Scottish gathering on this coast.
And this was the first year at Stone Mountain that they allowed female athletes to compete. So that was, again, another huge accomplishment for all the female athletes in the Scottish heavy athletics. You know, every year they're getting a little bit higher up there in the ranks, and getting basically allowed to take part in a little bit funner stuff. So everybody keep your eyes open. It's lightweights. We're next. So what are some of your plans for the next upcoming season as far as any particular big games that you're planning on hitting?
We always have a certain set of games here in the South, so I'll probably try to hit all of those. there's certain ones that you'd have to qualify for that are out west for the summer, so it really just depends on how I do.
Yeah.
So we're just gonna have to see. I think if I really work at it, I might have a shot at some of the bigger fields. So we'll have to see. It all really just depends on what happens with my back, and if I can spin.
Amanda's got a little bit of a back injury going on, which is one of the reasons why we have her here at the compound today. Here in a little bit, when we get done with the interview, myself and Donnie Thompson are going to spend a little bit of time with her and hopefully going to get Amanda feeling a little bit better. For those of you that have been following a lot of our videos and our Ustream, I'm sure you guys have figured out that I'm kind of the Spud Inc. mobility guy, so we're going to hopefully see what we can do to get Amanda feeling better. And I know me, myself, one of the big things that I'd like to hopefully see happen with Amanda this coming season is I'd like to see hopefully make it to the North American Championship.
I know, me too. I don't want to say that, but I sure would like to. That would be awesome.
I know.
Oh, wait a minute. I am going to go to Scotland, though, in July. Jocelyn Davis and I are going to go throw in Inverness on July 18th. So we're going to spend a week in Iceland with our Icelandic family that we love, who they also throw. And then we're going to go on to Scotland, the group of us. So big trip of a lifetime.
Awesome.
I'm excited about that.
I know that's my big. I know it'll probably never happen because they don't have lightweights over in Europe, but I'd love to get the chance to be able to go throw one day.
Well, they might one day.
One day. First goal is I gotta.
Or just go anyway.
Exactly. Like, I'm here to throw. They'll look at me and be like, what's wrong with this little kid? And,
with the beard. How's this bearded child doing?
It's not easy being little.
Oh, well, I'm not huge. Like I'm generally one of the smaller girls on the field, and I'm about 180 pounds.
I was gonna say you and Adrian are pretty close size wise. So usually you guys are kind of the littler ones on the field.
But she's throwing it the furthest, so I figure if that's my size and she's throwing it that far, I can do it too.
Exactly. Now, training-wise, what's training been looking like as of late for you? I know you've been having to train around the injury a little bit.
Well, when I injured myself initially, I only trained 4 days a week. And so when I injured myself initially, it was just going into the throwing season. So I was just throwing. That was all I was doing. And then I had a little 2-month break, and I would only lift though 1 day a week. And I would do, I was doing very light overhead squats, that kind of stuff. For whatever reason, overhead felt okay because it didn't compress my spine.
Right.
So I could do those. I was doing a lot of walking lunges, those kind of things. And then on the other 3 days, I was just throwing. So that's pretty much been what I've done this year. And it's odd that I've kept as much muscularity as I have, I think, considering I've not been lifting and squatting as heavy. But I was always squatting, but it just may not have been squatting heavy. And even now, I've actually for the past 2 weeks been training like a bodybuilder. But I'm okay
Don't
with
hold
that.
it against her, please.
Don't hold it against me. No. There's some amazing bodybuilders out there that are very strong. But that's just been trying to get back into that mindset. Because like I said, I screwed around in that for a little while. So I know how to do it. It just, it's not nearly as fun as getting to squat,
stuff,
and the deadlift. That's not nearly. That's fun.
Exactly.
But this getting there and doing arm curls in front of the mirror is just like, it just kind of hurts your feelings. But so I've actually been having to do that just because I promised both Travis's and my doctor that I would not do any dynamic movements for 4 weeks.
Good.
So I've got 2 more weeks before I'm gonna try anything like that.
Good.
Yeah.
Now, where you're at athletically now, because we asked who were some of the people that you used to look up to, now that you've switched sports and you're more into the strength side, who are some of the athletes that you look up to now?
Obviously Adrian. Yeah. Obviously Adrian, she's a tremendous, I watch her videos, like that changed everything for me. When I saw a slow motion video of her in the weight for distance, I was like, that's what I'm not doing. And then it clicked, and I was able, and I finally started hitting that number that I wanted to hit. And I was like, why didn't I do that? So Adrian is a huge role model for me. There's a lot of the male throwers that I love to watch. I love to watch Matt Vincent. I think he's amazing to watch. And I love his just his tools and the way he approaches things. believe it or not, my friend Jocelyn, you know, she trains with me.
Yeah.
Sometimes she'll come up and throw with me, and she was so strong in track and field, and it's just nice to have that close. So I'm fortunate that my role models are literally within arm's reach. I can get to them. Like a lot of times you never even know them.
Yeah. And also, Matt's really not that far from us either, down in Baton Rouge. So.
Yeah, and he's there. Everybody's very approachable. You know, everybody wants to see you do well. It's not like they're like holding this holy grail you can't get to, and it's like, well, we're never going to tell you how to do this. It's like, no, we want you to do this because that looks retarded. Yeah. You need to do it this way. And
exactly.
You know, it's nice. Like everybody, that's what's cool about this sport. Versus what I have seen in some of the other strength sports.
Exactly.
While it's still very competitive, it is very clannish. It's very much a family, and you support each other and you root for each other, and there's no undercutting each other. And at the end of the day, if you throw it further than me, you win.
Exactly.
Like there's no black or white, no gray area. It's black or white.
Exactly.
If you throw it further, you won. Sorry.
That's one of the things that I love about doing Highland Games is. They're long days, extremely long days, but I have never had such a long day at an event that I can honestly say that from the second we walked onto the field until I left, we were laughing and carrying on and having just a grand old time the whole entire day.
It's fun. It's even if it's raining. You know, it's just a blast.
Yeah. Those are the funnest games to compete in. You have never done anything until you have competed in a Scottish Highland Games when it is raining.
Oh Lord, don't even get me started on that. My car smelled like something sour for 2 weeks because I forgot my shoes were in the back. And I was like, what is dead in my car? And then I was like, oh my God, it's my shoes. Yeah, they didn't dry out.
What would you say is your top event Highland game wise right now?
When I started, it was weight over bar because just being strong, I could just muscle it up there. So weight over bar, but believe it or not, stone is getting pretty good for me. Good. Stone is really good, and hammer's looking better all the time, which is strange because I wasn't a collegiate hammer thrower. So it's nice that hammer is a good event for me. I want the distance events to be as strong as the height events. Yeah. The height events I kind of took to because I was just strong. You know, like you see your snatch in your sheath. Those kind of things. You know, the movements you do, you'll see them. And it's cool when you start to see them. When you're like, that big triple extension you get in the sheath, it's like, oh, wait a minute, that's what I do in the muscle snatch. I got it, okay. And you see it, and you're like, finally. Yeah. That's cool when you see that happen. But I want the other events to get us to match those. And slowly the distance events are coming.
Yeah. I think that's been a little bit, at times, one of my struggles, too. I hate stones with a passion. I don't know what it is about stones, but I cannot stand throwing a stone. Sheath has always been, for some odd reason, and I have, even though I know how to coach the movement, I've done it a few times as far as snatches and stuff like that. I'm the world's worst snatcher there is. Too many years powerlifting. I cannot get the whole concept of being tight, loose, tight, loose, tight, loose. All I know is stay tight, which would actually, ironically, made my Highland Games at first. It was a nightmare for me.
Yeah.
The first
gotta have hip mobility.
The first couple of times I threw a hammer, it looked horrible. I could not get my upper body to be over here, my hips to be here, and then hurry and switch them. I just could not figure that out.
Truthfully, I think that's a big misconception people have about the Highland Games. They think, you just got to be just big and strong. Yeah. You have to be big and strong and athletic. You can't just be big and strong. You got to be able to move. You got to be able to explode, and that's where I think, you see a lot of people who are just like, well, I can deadlift 800 pounds. Well, can you? Or can you do it?
Yep.
Can you do it and throw it above your head?
Exactly. And I think for me, that's why one of the ones that I really look up to. From coming from a powerlifting background primarily and then going into the Highland Games, Benedict is one of my big role models. For those of you that follow a lot of powerlifting that don't know it, Benedict is actually a really big Highland Games athlete as well overseas.
His calves have to be big around.
I think his calves may be as big as my waist.
They are massive.
and you can't he's one of those guys you love to hate him sometimes. He always has that big smile on his face.
It's so goofy, and he talks in the third person.
He does.
The bee.
The bee. Or he calls himself Benny. And Benedict, if you're listening, which would be really awesome if you are, I promise you I do love you.
Yeah, we're fans.
But he's just I think he's another just great ambassador for both
absolutely.
sports. Same with Matt Vincent as well. I've got to speak to Matt through email and everything a few times, and like you said, just super approachable guy.
Right.
It was funny, the first games that I was getting ready to do, I was a little nervous about it, and I'd emailed him once or twice, so I sent him a message, and was asking for some quick, advice and everything. And I guess it didn't dawn on Matt that I was a lightweight competitor up until that message. And I said, you know what, I'm having a hard time with the weight pulling me when I'm going for my cast and this and that. And I said, I don't know if it's just because I'm 165 pounds. And he ended up messaging me back. He goes, you're how big? And I was like, 165. He's like, well, the best advice I can give you, ... LOL. Make sure you let go of the weight so the judges don't have to follow you down the field with the weight. And I was like, that's awesome. Thanks. Everybody's got to make a dig at the little guy. But yeah,
funny.
It's just amazing how approachable everybody is in the Highland game sports. So you got 2 more weeks before you can go back to dynamic movements. And then from there, do you have an idea yet of what your training is going to look like?
Not yet. I'm going to ask Travis Futrell what he wants to do, and then we'll figure it out.
Good.
How we go from there. He's actually pretty good. I actually do a lot of my programming, and then he just looks over it and tells me yes, no. We've kind of gotten to that place where he doesn't have to stand over me. It's nice when you have that relationship.
Exactly.
It's like he knows I know what to do and that I'll do it.
Yep.
And as long as it's in the right direction that I need to go, and so that's a cool relationship that we have. So,
and I know from being a coach, that's an awesome feeling as a coach too, because I've got a couple of clients that are like that now. Every once in a while, I'll go ahead and write up all their programming and send to them. Then every once in a while, I'll be like, let's see what you can come up with. And it's great to see that process where you can tell that, hey, they are actually listening to me. And they pay attention a little bit, and they are taking a little bit of something away from this, other than getting the results.
Like a lot of my training, I've actually taken from Werner Gunther, watching videos of him. And his 4-part training series, and I'll look at that and I see how I can, change that to work with me as a woman. And he was just such a tremendous shot putter anyway, and
yes,
to watch those videos, even though they're in French, it's still you still know what's happening. Yeah. So I try to take as much of that as I can. Like I said, Travis always gives me the yay or nay, or you don't need to do this, or add this, or we need to change a couple of things, and so that's always good. Awesome. If not, I'd be out there trying to pick up a Mack truck or something and throw it somewhere, and that would be kind of silly, but cool.
It'd be fun. Some of the best parts. Well, today when Amanda got here, I got to put her on the spot for a little bit.
Oh, Lord. Forgive me, my nose has been running. I'm having an allergy, y'all. Sorry.
When Amanda got here today, before we started the interview, we were all just kind of sitting around talking, and we got informed of a very, very awesome and amazing story. 2 awesome and amazing stories.
But we're only going to share one, right? You don't have to share both.
I'm gonna let Amanda explain to everyone where peanut butter comes from.
Okay. So Travis Futrell and I were at the grocery store one day, and he was telling me I needed to get natural peanut butter, and I always buy the Skippy Natural. Yeah. And I said, it's already made. Natural. I don't have to touch it. It's there. And he's like, no, we'll go get it over here in the produce section. I'm like, they don't have peanut butter over there. And so we go over there, and there's these grinders, and I was like, what? And he turns it on, and it was like ice cream. And I said, no. And he said, yes. And I said, well, what's in there? And he said, peanuts. And I said, and what else? And he was like, that's all. I said, no. I said, it don't just make this. And he said, yeah, it does. And I said, it can't. And he said, yeah, it does. I said, Dentistry is my job. This don't even make sense. And he was like, hello. He was like, no, that's really how it works, Amanda. He's like, how do you not know this? I'm like, because I don't. I said, I don't cook peanut butter. I'm sorry. I don't. Not Martha Stewart. So
any of you that follow Amanda on Facebook would probably know that some of her best posts are her
kitchen
cooking
nightmares,
her cooking adventures and kitchen nightmares.
But I'll wear a bikini when I'm doing it, so that makes
maybe
it cool.
the only person that I know that'll fry bacon while wearing a bikini.
I've learned that lesson. I wear an apron now. But yeah. So anywho, he showed me this tidbit of black magic, and it stuck with me. And I still don't know if I fully believe that it's just nuts in those containers, because that still doesn't make any sense. But it's delicious.
It's crazy, isn't it, Keith?
I get the honey roasted.
It's crazy. I have a gargoyle on my lap right now.
But he's so handsome.
She has the absolute biggest French bulldog I've ever seen in my life. That is why I'm convinced that he makes goblin noises. So I am pretty convinced that Keith Richards is gargoyle.
Look at his muzzles. He's made like his mama. He squats.
You squat too, Keith?
You can tell.
Keith has to be the absolute coolest dog on Facebook. I don't care what anybody says. How can you not love that?
I know.
Love that face. Right, Keith. Right.
Even though he's got breath that'll knock a mule down. It's bad.
Well, everybody, we're going to go ahead and wrap up there, because here in a second, I'm going to have Amanda hanging upside down.
Put me in a medieval torture rack.
Yep, we're going to stretch her out. We're going to rack her. So stay tuned. Here soon we will have this video posted, as well as a few photos from some of the mobility stuff that we're going to be putting her through today. So as always, stay strong, lift heavy, and thank you guys for tuning in.
Thank you very much. And thank you.
You're welcome.